I'm not bitter. I've accepted my fate. It's the best work thing. So it's episode 438.
Okay, welcome back to the Mail Right Show, ladies and gentlemen.
Do you count down and go into it? Can you?
Okay. Then I gotta reset. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Mail Right Show. It's episode number 438. Today we're going to talk about everybody's favorite lead generation provider, Zillow Premier and Flex. We're going to do our best to let you know what you need to know, and we're going to get into this. I want to do a preamble to the show, but before I do, I have my co-host who chose the subject today. Certainly something that we should talk about, something I usually loathe talking about. But before I get into my end of that, John, why don't you go ahead and, you know what? I'd like you to do two things. One, I would like you to introduce yourself. And two, and I haven't asked him this question offline. Two, I would like you to explain to me and everybody else why you chose this as the subject for today's show.
Well, it's really to start with question two. My feelings are very similar to yours, but we haven't discussed it for a long time. And because we've got certain reservations about Zillow and these two offerings, they are still producing tons of leads. You know, I don't know if this is still accurate. I think last year 90 million people went to the Zillow website, and I don't know how many actual leads they generated through these two particular offerings. I'm not sure if that data is publicly available. I would imagine not. But they are a reality, and they're a big reality in the real estate space, even though I've got strong problems with them. So that's it. And I am the founder of MailRight. We're a platform. We build great looking websites at affordable price on WordPress. Plus, we got a CRM and a load of other fantastic digital tools in one really affordable platform. Back over to you, Rob.
All right. My name is Robert Newman, for those who may not know, and I'm the founder of a real estate marketing company called Inbound REM. We focus on inbound marketing methods like SEO, things like that, story-based lead attraction, conversion methodologies. We're the only people in the U.S. that are currently focused on inbound and real estate specifically. So you can check out more at inboundrem.com if you so choose. I have a lot of reservations about Zillow, mostly because Richard Barton, who is the founder of not only Zillow, but Expedia and Nextdoor and quite a few more internet companies than most people realize. Even I didn't realize all the stuff that he had his hands in. Artsy, for those who are into art, he is also the founder and creator of that. He has a tendency to take really broad, antiquated industries and bring them all online. And in the process, he makes it extremely difficult for smaller companies to compete. In a way, you have to admire his vision. But if you're in the real estate industry and you are buying Zillow leads, you are funding your competition at this point. There is no doubt that he intended to consolidate, as he has already done for Expedia. I don't care what you hear anybody say. Look at the past logic, and this is just my opinion. I don't have any insider knowledge. I haven't talked to Richard Barton. I'm just saying, look at what he did at Expedia, and then look at what he's doing with Zillow. They follow identical business growth timelines at Expedia. They cried all the way up to the heavens that they were never going to become a travel agency. And of course, they actually did. And he's been saying the same thing with Zillow. And of course, they are actually a real estate like company. They're competing against all of you. This is not your friend. And when they really consolidate their operations, my opinion is that they're going to have their Zillow teams get the vast majority of the best leads, sell all of you the less qualified leads, or certainly prioritize their own salespeople in some way, shape, or form, take a healthy percentage for doing this, and call it a day. So when you buy from them, and everybody always says, oh, I know this, but it's been getting worse and worse and worse. So we're going to highlight the programs. They do sell a good lead. I'm not going to misrepresent. But that's my qualifier to even get into this subject with John and talk about it. I strongly believe that every person that buys a lead, a single lead from Zillow, is funding one of their own strongest, best backed competitors, and that this is going to become a bigger and bigger problem for you over time. And everybody is just kind of ignoring it, thinking that, well, it's not today's problem. So that's what I have to say about that. John, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I basically agree with everything you outlined. It's quite a bizarre situation that a lot of agents decide to do business with a organisation that has made it pretty clear that its final destination is to get rid of agents to some extent, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's going to be, the more money that we give Zillow, the better that of a platform they create, but the harder that is for the individual agent to do business without them. Zillow's training these new agents up, and now they're effectively becoming agents that only know how to work with Zillow leads.
I think their main problem is Google, because they, in the real estate industry, they have quite a bit of power, but compared to Google, they're Mimo, they're nothing. They're a flea on the back of Google, aren't they?
Yeah, I can't agree more with that. That is why we keep talking about hyperlocal. Hyperlocal is the solution to this. Google is a friendlier company and not trying to put real estate agents out of business, whereas Zillow, you cannot say the same. So without any further ado, we're going to get into what we are going to discuss today is the Zillow, the basic outline. So here's the 4 quadrants that we have out, like, ready to queue up and talk to everybody about. The basic outline of Zillow Premier Agent, Zillow Premier Agent versus Zillow Flex, Zillow Premier Agent and Zillow Flex key strengths and weaknesses, and the Zillow Flex payment structure explained. John has done a very good job at adding some links in the show notes for those of you who are interested in finding out where the source of some of our information is. Please go to the MailRight website or the MailRight Facebook page and take a look at it. I will probably be forwarding the show into a private Facebook group and maybe my public Facebook page. I am not as proactive as John, so if you really want to get into the details of the show, definitely look on the MailRight site first. So without further ado, John, why don't you go ahead and jump into this, because I didn't do all the research that you did.
Yeah. Well, Premier Agent is their main platform. It's what they built the business on. Basically, they're selling leads, folks. People go to the Zillow website to do searches, pop-ups, sidebar advertising. There's advertising all over the website, and they want to get your name and email and phone number. And they certain properties, one of the things that really annoys a lot of agents is they show a property, they have an agent underneath. That agent isn't representing the seller or buyer. It can be somebody that has no real connection to the property, and they influence people to presume differently. So, and then that lead is sold to a group of agents, and basically it's computerized. They look at different metrics. How quickly does an agent respond to the initial lead? They look at a multiple of inputs in deciding on a rotation basis who's going to get the lead in a specific area. The more competitive the territory, i.e. urbanized city, not only will the cost per lead go up considerably, but the rotation, the quality of lead you will obtain, and the rotation basis will increase. And the cost, who knows? Because that really depends on where you are based. Are you based in Los Angeles? Are you based in Las Vegas? Are you based in Florida? Or you're based in some small town in Kansas or something? It really depends on where you are. So that is the basic outline. Would you agree with that, Robert?
Yeah, well, yes. And you know what? Just in the brief time you've been talking, I managed to read and update my knowledge on the Zillow Flex versus Zillow Premier, and I've realized that they renamed one of these plans, or at least since the last time I looked at it. Zillow Flex, like Zillow Flex is competing with a division of Realtor.com, which we used to be called OpCity, and for all I know, they've changed it, but it's basically performance pay and plan. Anyway, and Premier is their standard advertising plan, which while I didn't know the brand names, John, I can certainly talk about the hundreds, if not thousands, of agents that I've talked to that have been using that plan, or have used it in the past, or will use it in the future. Premier Agent usually comes down to like what I've found in terms of pricing. It is a price on demand program. In other words, pricing is not flat. If they have open zip codes and available leads, they will charge you maybe as little as $600 a month. But if they have a lot of agents in line for a single zip code, I've heard of that price going up to upwards of $3,000 per zip code or per area, and no guarantee that you're not going to get competition. The thing about Premier that I've understood is that over the years, they've been trying to ramp up the quality of the leads in terms of having a person call and verify that it is really a lead, because needless to say, it used to be incredibly irate when somebody would call to, let's say, ask them to rent a home, and you just spent $600 to get that person to call you in the first place. So there's been a lot of changes with Zillow Premier. Like any other lead generation program, a lot of what is going to be your results, the people listening to the show, is going to be based on how many people are using them in your area. And Zillow is one of the least friendly companies when it comes to revealing any information about, like, if you're trying to research and say, all right, I as a broker or an agent would like to make an educated decision about whether or not I use these guys as a lead source. And let's say they quote you $3,000 a month for your zip code that you're interested in. That's a lot of money. I don't care who you are, what agent you are. That's a lot of money. So now then you ask the question, well, how many other people are using it? They will never tell you.
No, never.
So you absolutely do not know. Now you just have to take the plunge. Some people will be successful and some people won't. My advice for Zillow with higher priced zip codes, and you're an agent with no sales experience, is probably going to be to avoid them. Not because they couldn't be successful, but because you will get limited times at bat. You need to bleed in practice as opposed to die in war with these guys. You can't spend that much money on any lead program unless it's going to be like a Ylopo or somebody who's going to give you 100 leads. So you get 100 at bats, and you get to get the marbles out of your mouth and basically get better at lead response with small, like, leads that are not, like, you have more at bats. Like, some of them won't be any good, but that doesn't mean that you don't get to try your scripts and your practices on people who are really contacting you through a lead generation source. The Zillow, you might get 8 at bats if you're very lucky.
I think you've touched. You really got to be on top of your game on your response. You got to, when that comes through the app, you got to respond and ring up the prospect. You got to be on the top of your game, and you got to have your scripts practiced, and you got to be on your top game, because otherwise, and to be fair to them, if you don't respond and you haven't polished your scripts, they're going to probably reduce the amount of leads they're sending your way as well. So you got to really.
Well, you'll get kicked out of the Flex program, but we're going to talk about that in a second when we come back from break. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to break really quick, and once we do, when we come back, we're going to quickly compare Zillow Flex versus Zillow Premier, and then we're going to cover the last remaining topics, and we'll be much faster about it. Super sorry to both John and the audience for the preamble. I believe very strongly in this. I can't do a show without saying it. That's all I got. We'll be right back. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode number 438 of the Mail Right Show. Today we're discussing Zillow Premier and Flex. These are 2 paid lead advertising programs that you can find through Zillow. We've covered the basics and maybe even not the basics of the Zillow Premier program. Coming back from break, we're going to start off by comparing Premier Agent with Zillow Flex, and I'm going to leverage my amazing co-host and say, John, why don't you start us off with what you think give us a verses in your head about these 2 programs.
Yeah, the Flex program is invite only. There is no upfront fees. The bad news is if you sell a property or there's a commission, they want 35% of it. And there's 2 methodologies. They monitor you. They will ring you up. There's a specific app that you got to fill in all the details of the conversations you've had, how are things progressing. Periodically, one of their team will look over it, contact you, confirm, and I think you get a couple of options about how you pay. You can either go through the title company, or you can do it by sending them a check. If you try and get out of it, they will pursue you to hell. They will not mess around. So don't think you can mess them around, because that ain't going to work. And like I say, it's invite only. You got to be a top tier performer in their eyes to be the invite. You got to have some credibility with them. You really got to make a decision, because they want 35%. It is going to be the lead. Quality, in my opinion, is going to be of a different level to Zillow Premier. But like I say, you pay for that. I don't think it's worthwhile. I think if you're that kind of experienced type agent with a power team, or your small brokerage with a power team, I think you should be looking at other methodologies. I would look at Google local service ads, or I'll look at Facebook, or I look at anything myself. But you're adult, you got to make your choice, haven't you, Robert?
Yeah. So here's the my overall thoughts, vast. So John was kind enough, and I really strongly am going to tell you all this. After looking at the material that John provided, John found a really excellent Reddit thread on the subject of Flex. I'm a very fast reader, so I've read most of that thread, John, and I can tell you that it was a really great find, because it talks it's a realtor, number one, on the thread. It's a new realtor, a husband and wife team, and we're comparing Premier through Flex. Well, I'm a lifetime marketer. And generally speaking, as a lifetime marketer, and most of you will intuit this, you always want to own your lead source. To the best of your ability, you want to own your lead source. Now, there is no such thing for realtors, but Google is a better option because they don't take a flat percentage of your business. As a matter of fact, they don't even come close. The cost of a Google lead currently hovers at about 3% of the cost of a Zillow lead. Or for those of you who are not great at math, that's 97% better on the price. Okay, so you're talking about, and that's a paid lead. That's through their LSAs. That's through hyperlocal that you pay an ad for. They're charging you $45 to $100 and not charging you any closing percentage. Zillow Flex changed their rules, and they will charge you upwards of 40%, is what the number is according to the Reddit thread.
Oh, they increased it to 40, have they?
That's what the Reddit thread said. I don't know this to be true, ladies and gentlemen. I have only read it on this thread, but it's a realtor saying that they raised the price with a comment on homes above $300,000, which was a big price for their market at that time. So the bigger the deal, the bigger the percentage. Plus, that particular realtor had a 50-50 split with their broker, meaning that they were basically losing 60 to 80% of their income and keeping 20 to have their lead source. Now, I just want to say, between Premier and Flex, the sad news is that for brand new realtors, the only advantage for using Flex is if you're young, your expenses are low, maybe you're directly out of college, and you're trying to learn real estate, and you're driven, determined, and anxious to learn a career. Then I think actually Flex is an amazing opportunity for you. You are effectively, yes, you'll give up your income in a very big margin. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? It doesn't freaking matter if you don't have the skills. You'll learn the skills. The program through Zillow will help you teach you the skills. Hopefully your broker, who, if they're taking a 50% cut, I hope they're teaching you something. And if they're not, you need to change broker stat. Because you should be giving them that income to learn their processes, their operations, how their transaction coordinator handles the deal, what you say at open houses and what you say when you're on the phone with the lead. All those things are institutional knowledge that somebody paid a dear price to learn. And if they're going to teach it to you, they have every right to charge you a percentage, in my opinion, and a significant one. However, if you know all those things, guess what, guys? If you're listening to the show, there are a lot of veteran agents that are listening to the show right now who are laughing because you know you'd never, ever in this or any other universe use Flex. You might use Premier because you're willing to pay if the lead is good enough and your conversion rate is high enough. For you, that person listening to the show, Zillow Premier might be good. Now, I'm going to end this by saying the comparison is normally super simple. The problem for all of you is that Zillow has not lowered their prices and the market has gotten significantly more challenging than it was 2 years ago. So if you weren't making a really big profit in buying leads, you're going to lose your hat right now. Like, you are just going to get crushed. And many of you are getting crushed. I know, because I'm getting the calls. So and that is also the difference between owning a thing and leasing a thing. When you own a thing, which is what John and I both counsel to you, when the industry gets hard like this, even if you fired us, I want to be really clear, even if you stopped paying us, you still own the platform. The platform might generate you a minimal amount of leads, but that's whatever. If it was one, that is a million times better than Zillow, who would give you none. Like, while you're waiting for the market to change. So that's my comparison against the two. Do you have anything else that you want to add now that I've said my bit, or should we go on to, or did we already cover the strengths and weaknesses of Zillow?
I think we have, haven't we? I think we can wrap it up. And I totally agree with your with what you just said. Basically, I think there are specific scenarios and certain situations and certain agents. You know, with the Flex, it's really just a rename of Premier. It's another layer of Premier aimed at broker. They choose a broker, the broker gets his cut. And if you're that agent, you can stomach it, you're only going to make 20% probably. If you're not that young, inexperienced, or just inexperienced agent with that particular brokerage, I don't think it's worth getting involved in that in any shape or form. But that's just my personal opinion, Rob.
Yeah, if you're an agent bouncing around, Flex is, I'm going to guess, this is just a guess, but I don't get too many super veteran agents even talking about an opposite year Flex. I get, it's like the Redfin agents that you love to talk about. People in their first like one through year 5, all of these discount systems like Zillow Flex, Opcity, blah, 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 blah. They're all worth considering. Anything where anybody's teaching you with a greater deal of support, giving you customers to get in front of, all of that is an excellent way to get your experience in. I might do that if I was getting into real estate, do a year working these paid leads, because effectively I'm being told what to do and where to go, and the vast majority of the work is done for me, because I hate to break it to everybody, but getting your customers is about 50% of your real estate business or more. After that, it comes down to selling the home and getting the transaction, and those are very big pieces of the pie too. But one of the hardest things is finding a brand new supply of fresh clients month in and month out so that you can make yourself a very good living. And the lower the price point of your marketplace, the more of these customers that you have to find. So Louisiana, West Virginia, you guys need 30, 40, 50 deals a year to make significant income. The rest of the country isn't quite as dramatic as that, but those places certainly are. Listen, everybody, we're going to end the show a few minutes early today because the subject was pretty cut and dry. I'm just going to say, for those of you who did heed my preamble at the beginning, Premier will give you a good lead. It'll give you a good buyer's lead, and it'll give you an so-so seller's lead. If you have a budget and you're looking to spend it someplace, I suppose you could spend it here. I don't really recommend it unless you're just absolutely have to have leads for a team or something like that. And there's a very limited number of case studies in which I would say is like you'd be better served to use local service ads and Google advertising and drive it into a website that you own. Your conversion rates won't be as good, but for those of you who are determined, you could build in internal systems similar to Zillow's and own the whole process from start to finish. And any determined agent or broker would be better served doing that. That's what I've got to say.
Sounds good to me. Gonna wrap it up now, Rob.
Okay. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. John, if you would like to have people reach out to you or find you in some way or ask you some questions or compare the mail rights system versus Zillow, Premier, or Flex, how would you like them to reach out to you?
Oh, thanks for that, Rob. It's basically really simple. Just go over to mail-right.com, have a look around the website, and you can book a free chat with me. And if you've got any questions, need any quick advice, I'll be more than happy to have a chat with you. Back over to you, Rob.
And ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to reach out to me or find out how Inbound REM compares against Zillow or Flex, you can go to inboundrem.com, look at my services or about pages. There's contact forms in both. You can get into my calendar directly, or you can talk to one of my team members. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we so very much appreciate you tuning into the show. Like us wherever you found us. Share it with other people who you think are new agents in the industry. It is really important that you all understand that new agents fuel a lot of veteran agents' worst problems inside the real estate industry. So please share this show with those that you think might get some value from it. It will impact you well over time. And with that, sir, take us offline.